Don't blink. Not yet. I need you to lock your eyes on the screen, stay focused on the face, and let the small, terrible things begin to pull you in. You are staring at a face, or at least something that is pretending to be one. At a casual glance, scrolling past, it might appear almost harmless. A slumbering giant, smooth-skinned, silent, motionless. But the longer you look, the more your brain begins to reject what it sees. The anatomy is wrong. The stillness is not peaceful, it is hollow. It is the stillness of an abandoned house where something is rotting behind the walls. Look at the eyes. These are not eyes. They are black wells drilled clean through the skull into a cavernous dark. They do not reflect the light. They do not blink. They are voids. And within that hollow socket, do you see it? A lizard slips over the rim, sliding down into the skull like a thief slipping down a chimney into permanent night. But surrounding those dead wells is something you cannot ignore. Look at the skin around the sockets, the folds, the sinews, the tiny ridges. They are swollen and webbed. They don't look like flesh anymore. They look like the beginnings of root branches. They arc and fork, not along the lines of human muscle, but mimicking the slow, agonizing pattern of a tree's growth. These protrusions look carved, coiling softly around the eye hollows. Filigree that is alive and very, very old. Follow those lines outward. The strange, branching protrusions around the eyes are actually extensions of a parasitic invasion. Look at the ear. A tree is violently forcing its way outward through the auditory canal. The trunk thrusts up through the helix as if the ear were nothing more than pot soil. Ask yourself, did this tree sprout from a seed buried deep in the mind? Did it feed on thoughts turned rotten, years of whispered lies and ignored truths until it became strong enough to burst through the bone? The tree doesn't merely pierce the ear, it inhabits it. The roots have become the anatomy. A lizard pushes into the ear canal as another wedges itself into the split upper cartilage, each creature treating the wounds like natural entry points to a burrow. What echoes might they hear in that cavernous skull? Screams? The laughter of old friends? Or something far worse? Total silence. The nose dominates now. It is straight, noble, almost beautifully sculpted. It feels like a fragment of a Roman statue, crafted by a mad artisan obsessed with perfection amidst chaos. But this perfection hides a sickness. From its nostrils, a cascade of gold and silver coins tumbles forth. It isn't a trickle, it's a hemorrhage. It draws your eye downward to what lies beneath. Look closely at the stream of currency. The gold and silver spill from the sculpted nose, plummeting into a vast, rounded pool. This basin is filled with inky, viscous liquid that shimmers with an unsettling, oily sheen. The pool is a self-contained vessel of corruption. What is down there? And why is this flood of worldly riches driven directly into that dense, corrosive abyss? Dip your gaze into that pool if you dare. Figures writhe within the muck, bare forms submerged in the blackness. And here is the horror. They seem content. One raises an arm in ecstasy, Another floats languidly, faces twisted in an expression that sits on the razor's edge between agony and orgasm. One of them looks up at the stream of snot-covered gold with a reverence that feels unsettlingly pure. But they are not alone. Among them lurk creatures, hybrids of beast and nightmare. And on the rim of this bizarre bath, Komodo-like reptiles perch. They watch the bathers with predatory patience, statues of cold blood, waiting for the moment when indulgence turns into devouring. Shift upward again, to the crown of this colossal head. A white cloth drapes like a shroud tented over the scalp, but this is no place of rest. Atop it reclines a bare woman, indifferent to the world burning around her, her body sprawled on a plush green pillow. A serpent coils around her, emerald scales gliding over her skin in lazy, possessive loops. She doesn't flinch. Her eyes are distant, lost in some private reverie, oblivious to the monstrous head beneath her. Behind her, the scene dissolves into absurdity. A frog squats in the center, its mouth pried wide open by its own webbed hands, throat exposed in a silent scream. Or is it a yawn of gluttony? Flanking it, an owl perches with unblinking wisdom, feathers ruffled, holding a brush like a scepter of judgment. And to the right, a monkey crouches, mischievous and mocking, its eyes glinting with secrets it will never share. You might be wondering, what madness birthed this visage? What kind of mind could conceive of a head that is simultaneously a landscape, a victim, and a prison? This is no isolated nightmare. It is a fragment of a far greater vision, one that terrified Europe for centuries. You are looking at the Vision of Tondal, a painting created around the early 16th century, attributed to a follower of Hieronymus Bosch, the master artist whose imagination carved open the thin membrane between the earthly and the infernal. Although the exact hand behind this work is debated, the spirit is unmistakable. This is the visual language of the apocalypse. Chaos, punishment, temptation, and salvation, all fused into one feverish, impossible landscape. Bosch's influence saturates every square inch of this wood panel. The hybrid monsters, the surreal architecture, the specific ironic punishments. It is all there. But the imagery did not originate with the painter. It comes from a medieval tale that gripped the imaginations of monks, aristocrats, pilgrims, and sinners alike. A story that acted like a virus, spreading the fear of hell across a continent. The story begins in the 12th century, written by an Irish monk named Marcus. It tells of a wealthy knight named Tondal. Tondal was everything a medieval moralist despised. He was corrupt, he was proud, and he was deeply, selfishly indulgent. He lived for the flesh. One night, while dining at a friend's house, Tondal strikes a deal to purchase a horse. But as he reaches out, his body seizes. He collapses. He appears dead. For 3 days and 3 nights, his body lies cold. But inside that cold husk, Tondal is screaming. His soul is violently torn from his body and dragged through a journey of torments. Guided by an angel, he wanders through the geography of hell. He encounters grotesque demons, twisted valleys of fire, boiling cauldrons of sin, and monstrous creatures feeding on the damned. He is forced to cross a bridge of nails. He is forced to witness the beast Acheron, who swallows sinners whole. And then, after the terror has scrubbed his soul clean, he is shown the peace of paradise, only to be thrown back into his body. He wakes up screaming, forever changed. He gives away his wealth. He puts on the cross. He becomes a warning. This medieval tale became one of the most copied visionary texts of the Middle Ages, a bestseller before the printing press even existed. Dozens of illuminated manuscripts were inked by candlelight. Monasteries illustrated it to keep the monks in line. Noble families commissioned paintings of it to hang in their halls, a constant reminder that their gold could not buy them out of the fire.
Each artist reimagined Tondal's torments in their own way, producing a constellation of nightmares across Europe. This painting is one of the most vivid and perhaps the most psychological descendants of that tradition. Now that you know where this came from, look at what it contains. Look closely, because the artist has hidden the key to the entire painting in plain sight. Amid all this chaos, amid the fire and the monsters, there is one figure who does not belong to the nightmare. At the bottom left, a man sits on the hard ground. He is dressed in an orange robe, his head resting heavily on his hand. His eyes are shut tight. He looks exhausted, perhaps even bored, or maybe he is concentrating with everything he has. That is Tondal, the knight himself. He isn't trapped in this inferno. He's seeing it. This entire landscape, the grotesque face, the writhing bathers, the creatures tearing into the living, none of it is happening around him physically. It is happening inside his mind. This is an internal apocalypse, a vision forced upon him while his body lies comatose on a floor in Ireland. And standing at his side is his guide, an angel, calm and composed, dressed in flowing robes, directing Tondal's attention. The angel's posture is gentle, almost polite, but the message is brutal. Look, witness your future. This is the architecture of your soul. Follow the angel's gaze, and the nightmare aligns itself around Tondal's imagination. Right above his head, the vision tightens. Two bare souls cling to each other, a single serpent coiled around both their necks like a shared noose. They are tied together by sin. The snake binds them, breathless and panicked, and behind them, hybrid beasts sink their teeth into their bodies, feeding slowly, methodically. This is lust. This is the corruption of the flesh. And Tondal sees every detail. Even with his physical eyes shut, the vision blooms in full, high-definition color. Because this isn't a dream. It's a revelation. A prophecy delivered with violence and precision. Scan to Tondal's right. The vision spikes into a scene of piercing noise and escalating cruelty. Your eyes land on a strange creature. It is round, pale, egg-bodied. Its feet are thin and wiry, bird-like. Its tail flicks like a rat's. A green frill droops from its neck like the wilted collar of a sad puppet. For an instant, the modern brain tries to make sense of it, and absurdly, stupidly, a comparison flashes through the mind. Kermit the Frog. But look closer. From its face, a long beak juts outward, not a mouth, but a shawm, a loud medieval wind instrument. The creature blows into it with both hands, and the tune is directed at her. A bear woman sits on a massive die, a gambling cube. Around her, more dice lie scattered on the scorched surface, as if the ground itself remembers her past decisions better than she does. She turns, mouth open, not in a scream, but in a shocked, breathless gasp. The sound someone makes the instant pain arrives before they understand it. Because something crouches behind her. A hunched creature shrouded in a ragged hood, its face elongated and reptilian. It clutches a roasting spit, a long iron rod, and drives it into her flesh. This is not a frenzy. It is a punishment executed with the same cold expertise as a pitmaster loading a carcass for the rotisserie. The shawm creature pipes its jagged atonal tune, while the other forces the spit deeper, as if the music is keeping rhythm with the torture. A duet of agony. And the worst part? Nothing here looks rushed. Nothing looks frantic. This is routine. This is the bureaucracy of hell.
Now, drop your eyes to the bottom right corner. The atmosphere changes here. It gets heavier. Smells of rust and old perfume. There, half buried in the rouge-colored earth, lies a bleached skull, long-jawed, equine. Around it, twisted branches of a plant spring up, life climbing out of decay. The air tastes of damp earth and rot. To the left of the skull, a bare woman in a threadbare cape bestrides a horrid, iridescent peacock beast. She clutches the reins in trembling hands. If you know your medieval allegory, you know what this is. Even the guides of the 12th century warned that pride is often painted as a woman riding a peacock. Her posture, her wild eyes. She brims with vanity even here, in the pit. On her back clings a green, winged creature, half bird, half reptile, its claws digging into her back. She carries her demon with her. Above this tableau, a round blue canopy droops down from the larger tent above, like a mouth opening. Inside, a perverse play unfolds. A monkey-headed demon holds a wineskin tilted forever over a quivering bare person's mouth. It forces cheap wine, or partial bile or molten lead, down their throat. It reminds you of the old Bosch-ian tortures. One chronicler notes that in hell, giant demons restrain a glutton as they pour liquor never-endingly down his throat. The man is drowning on dry land. Next to him, another monkey creature, this one wearing an upturned cauldron as a helmet, drives a dagger into a bare woman's back. On the table beside her lies a bloated frog or a sea creature, plated as if it were a delicacy, a dish of plague. Beneath the table, you glimpse a severed body, a torso sprawled, its head inches away. The feast is over, and the guests are the meat. But look above them. Above it all lies a bed. In it, a pale young woman is strapped, supine, face ashen, lips quivering. She cannot move.
lizard-skinned demons crawl over the sheets. A monkey-faced rat creature looms beside her, its eyes gleaming. It fixes its hollow stare on hers, prying at her soul. Beside the bed stands a figure draped in a heavy green robe. Its face is pale, wearing an expression carved in permanent resentment. It's the face of something that has watched suffering long enough to grow fluent in it. To the left of the woman, almost brushing the corner of the mattress, a frog-like creature looms. Both webbed hands are lifted, fingers splayed, as though preparing to gather everything in the bed into its possession. This is the nightmare of the bedroom, the violation of the one place that should be safe. All of this is cramped under the torn canvas of a great tent. Behind it, the nightmare spills outward into the horizon. Distant spires of cities burning, rivers of flame where people sink and drown, gallows where tortured souls hang like dried fruit, gaunt demons feasting on others like carrion. The canvas flaps in a hot wind that smells of brimstone and charred flesh. You can almost feel the heat radiating off the screen. You shiver under the canopy of tormented dreams, unsure if you breathe air or ash. Move with me now to the far left edge of the scene. Notice how the pale clouds brood there, quiet and watchful. From that roiling cloud bank, a gnarled branch suddenly bursts forth, dark against the glow. It spears a smooth, white globe, impaling it like a vicious stake through an eggshell. Your eyes dart to the top of the branch. A single, giant eyeball perches there. It surveys the chaos. Its unblinking gaze seems both curious and accusing, as it watches you watching this scene. The sphere is cracked open, with long fractures visible as they spider across its white shell. Black smoke billows from the torn seam, curling upward. Inside the shattered globe, tongues of fire roil and sputter. If you look closely, you catch glimpses of tiny, tortured bodies writhing among the flames, their anguished shadows flickering like souls in a furnace. Below this floating nightmare, a bare woman sits on a green, scaled surface. Her body sags. Her head bows under some unbearable weight. You can see the tension in her shoulders, the curve of a tremble in her hands. She doesn't look up at the fiery globe above. She is too terrified to see what comes next. At her side looms a demon with a pale, white face and a cruel grin. A scarlet scarf flutters around its neck. It stretches out a hand toward the cracked sphere. It beckons wordlessly, a finger pointed at the churning orb. That, it seems to say, that will be you soon. You feel the demon's intent, as if it could step through the painting and grab you by the wrist. And all around them, the scene is framed by a strange, hazy blue space. This misty layer could be water, it could be fog. Within it, ghost white silhouettes drift slowly. You make out pale forms of people, birds, even fish, floating aimlessly. They are like beings seen in a funhouse mirror, washed out, weightless, crossing a liminal river. Are these souls awaiting judgment? Or are they forgotten memories dissolving into the ether? Their presence adds a layer of quiet chill to the cacophony. Life and death intermingling under that all-seeing eye.
We have dissected the flesh of this painting. We have walked through the carnival of cruelty. But we haven't talked about its soul. And this is where the vision turns from a nightmare into a mirror. You see, for centuries, art historians have debated the identity of the colossal head that dominates the center. Most assume it is a demon, perhaps Lucifer himself, frozen in the ice of Dante or the mud of Bosch. But look closer. Look at the specific punishments inflicted upon it. The ears are clogged with roots. Why? Because the sinner was deaf to the word of God. The nose bleeds money. Why? Because the sinner suffered from the sickness of greed. The eyes are hollowed out. Why? Because the sinner refused to see the suffering of the poor. These aren't random tortures. In the original 12th century text, Tondal wasn't just a random knight. He was a man specifically defined by his immense vanity, his greed, and his refusal to give charity. This brings us to the most unsettling theory of all. The monster isn't a demon. The monster isn't Satan. The monster is Tondal. The knight in the corner, head in his hands, is looking at a physical manifestation of his own corrupted soul. He isn't witnessing hell. He is witnessing himself, turned inside out. The angel isn't showing him the world. He is showing him the mirror. That vast, coin-vomiting, deafened, root-bound face is what Tondal looks like when the skin of his humanity is peeled away. The horror isn't that monsters exist, it's that we turn into them. The landscape of hell is built from the bricks of our own bad decisions. And finally, we have to talk about the itch this painting leaves in the brain, the controversy of desire. If you look closely at the sinners in the bath of filth, or the woman on the bed, or the gamblers, they don't look like they are fighting it. There is a sickening passivity to them, a suggestion that they have merged with their sins. The artist implies that Tondal's hell isn't a place he was sent to, but a place he grew. The roots in the ears, the coins in the nose, the body transforms into what it loves most. We don't suffer for our sins. We become them. We solidify around our obsessions until we are nothing but a giant, rotting head, stuffed with gold and deaf to the world. So, before you turn off your screen, before you go back to the scroll, to the noise, to the distractions of the living world, let this settle in your mind. If an angel peeled back the reality of your life right now, if they stripped away your skin and showed you the landscape of your own soul, what would you see? Would you see a life lived with purpose? Or would you see yourself waiting in line for the spit? Sleep well.